there, welcome back to our show. Today I'm going to talk about Young Frankenstein, which is the Mel Brooks parody of Frankenstein. They treat kind of like an extension of the Frankenstein films, with the idea of there's been various Baron Frankensteins from the James Whale version onwards, and this is shot in black and white, even though it takes place in modern day. It's shot in black and white, so everything resembles the old school of James Whale films and Universal films. And it's silly in the way that Mel Brooks can be silly, but also it is respectful to the source. It's not like Mel Brooks where he throws everything at the screen and hopes some of it sticks, which you get in much of his later films, like Dracula Dead and Loving It is many more just gags. In this one, there are jokes, but it's also trying to be like a Frankenstein film for a while before it goes off onto its own path and becomes a Mel Brooks film. But it's still got like it's got humour, but it's not quite as wild as some of the other Mel Brooks films. It does respect its source, is what I'm saying, and you can tell that Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder, who also wrote it with him, were massive fans of the original Frankenstein. It was Gene Wilder's idea. Was there was a Frankenstein who did not want to be known as a Frankenstein, who was ashamed of his family's background. And as soon as Mel Brooks had that idea, he was like, "Yep, I'll do it." And it's just a lot of fun. Basically, the idea is years later, after various Frankenstein movies, from the original James Whale ones to Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein, which had a brother of the Son of Frankenstein, and I'm not sure if Frankenstein versus the Wolfman counts. I'm not sure how that figures in, but I'm not sure if Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein figures in. It's that a thing. It's kind of vague, you know. I'd like to think they all figure in some way, you know, but it's kind of vague. And the idea of this is that Frankenstein is now, it's now like the 1960s. Frankenstein, I think it's the 60s, but parts of it feels more modern, parts of it feels a bit more old-fashioned with socialites and things. It feels like a very kind of mix of different eras, which is where the original films were sort of the same way, where they weren't locked down to one era. You couldn't say, "Oh, that's 1860 or something." It was always like bits of this, bits of that, and this film has the same approach. So you go with the modern world, which has some 1930s feel to it, but also some people dress as if they're from a later era. And then you go back to the old country where everyone still dresses like they were in the old Frankenstein movies. And there's no modern transport, and the biggest modern transport is a train. So you've got a variation of different styles, but they do take it seriously. So Gene Wilder plays the new Frankenstein now, who does not like when his name's pronounced Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein, not Frankenstein, and Frankenstein. So he's doing his best to hide his family's shame, but even though he's a scientist and he's into like biology and how the body works, and there's a funny scene earlier on when he's showing his theories to his class and being very cruel to people. But he receives a message from his family to come back to his old homestead to basically get his inheritance. So he goes back and leaves behind his fiancée Elizabeth, who's played by Madeline Cannon, who's a complete lunatic. He can't touch her, can't kiss her, nothing. So there's a wisey with her, and it just shows how insane the character is before you see the real signs of insanity. So he goes back where he meets Marty Feldman's Igor, and who's a hump that switches side to side, which is obviously Mel Brooks land humour. And there's lots of walk this way jokes, like follow and walk this way, and you walk the same way as Igor. Like, getting from the train to the castle involves just going on a haystack drawn by horses, and That's when you meet Terry Garr, who just passed away before I did this video. Basically, at the time of watching the film and then doing the video, she died, which was very weird. But she's probably one of the best parts of the film is she asks Brown if she wants a roll in the hay, and then she starts rolling the hay, making some funny noises, and it just shows you how silly and crazy this character is. And this character remains crazy throughout. Like what was normally a boring character is turned into a lunatic. And Igor is the same. Igor is just weird. Mark Feldman plays him really weird. He's weird eyes and everything else, and it's just so. Gene Wilder was a straight man a lot of the time, at least for the first half of the movie, where he has to deal with Chloe Sleachman's the housemaid, who's crazy as well, and every time you see her name the horses and make weird noises, and then eventually he gets the castle. He settles in and he finds the old laboratory of his predecessors, and of course he goes mad instantly and decides to build another monster, because why not? At the same time, the villagers are terrified of a new Frankenstein in the area, because it's like, this family is not good for us. This family makes horrible decisions. And of course, eventually he builds a new monster, and the new monster, like the other ones, is scared of fire, looks like the Carlo Verge, played by Peter Boyle, and it's just, a poor soul who has been tortured by life. But also, of course, the Mel Brooks film, there's some funny humour in it as well. Like there's Frankenstein. After he gets beyond his fear of the monster and everyone else's fear of the monster, because obviously he sees him, it's like, oh my god, and then the monster escapes, because they find out that Igor is an idiot. They do the joke where Igor breaks the good brain and ends up getting a normal brain put in, but instead of it just being unnoticed, it was like, is this the proper brain you got for me? Did you get the brain of this great scientist? I got the brain of abnormal. Yeah, abnormal brain. There are jokes like that, but they work in context. So the film gets crazier as it goes on. It just becomes this big, silly thing, where suddenly Frankenstein's going into town with the monster and doing a big Broadway show, and they're doing a big Broadway show with the monster and him dancing. Of course, the monster goes mad and gets getting hunted down by everybody, blah blah blah, the usual thing. But eventually, everything calms down and actually have a happy ending for the monster and Frankenstein. And it's a really lovely film. Now, if you're looking for Mel Brooks, crazy Mel Brooks, you find signs of it here. But the film is so in love with the old movies that he is constrained by it. And you're feeling that Gene Wilder constrained him, because he also wrote it and acts in it. And obviously was like, let's not go that far in these places. But other times, like the Broadway show was Gene Wilder's idea. And Mel Brooks was like, is this a bit far? Is this too much? So I think basically they were both like pushing each other forward, but also being restraints in each other, so that you get the right balance of like silly humour and reverence for the material. And you get that in the film. It's just a really good mix of both sides. So the reverence isn't allowed to be like overwhelming, and it just becomes the pastiche of the movies. But the humour's not allowed to overwhelm the film either. So you still get the joy of the old films, but you get the humour, and it just allows certain actors just to go crazy. I mean, Madeline Kahn, when she returns to the movie as the fiancée, is just a lunatic, because she falls in love with the monster, and that's what she wants. She doesn't want Frankenstein, she wants a monster. And of course, they made her up like the bride later on. Terry Garr as the kind of frisky weirdo assistant is great, because she falls in love with Frankenstein, he falls in love with her, and she has tons of just weird looks throughout the film. Her, Gene Wilder, and Mark Feldman are the kind of trio that kind of bind the film together. They're the ones that kind of ground it while everyone else is off doing their stuff. And even then, when they combine into one group, it allows Gene Wilder to go a bit crazier and make Frankenstein crazier, because they switch who's grounding the scene at any point. So as the film goes on, Frankenstein becomes more of a maniac, and that allows Gene Wilder to do his stuff. So it's just a wonderful film. It just really works. And I'd not seen this for years. I saw it a lot as a kid, and then never watched it for 20 years, even though I'm a massive horror movie fan of that period. I just was like, I've seen all the Mel Brooks films. I don't need to see them any more of them. And so I came back to it much later, like 2 weeks ago, I think. And it's just wonderful. It really is wonderful. It's like, if you're expecting a gag fest, it's not that. But if you're expecting something it's really enjoyable, that really works, but doesn't push it too much. It doesn't really push you into look at me type of thing. It's actually just like, it's a fun little film on its own with some good jokes. That's it. It's a Frankenstein movie with jokes. So, highly recommended. Go watch it. I had a lot of fun with it. And you'll see lots of actors having a good time and doing some eccentric performances. So, enjoy. Hope you liked this video. That's me for now. Bye.